I think people here have sort of made their peace with this season in a lot of ways. Anthony, have Yankees fans made their peace with this season already?
I don't think so. I only the most optimistic, and some even might say loony Yankee fan still believes that they have a crack at the playoffs. I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated, obviously, neither are the Jays, but that's just the math talking. I mean, they're done. And it is as it should be, too, because they're not good enough. And, but I think that some people are, they're still sort of, they're very unhappy about the way things have worked out this year. And I mean, we're basically shifting into Derek Jeter's last homestand mode right now. And, that's certainly not what Yankee fans had in mind. But the Yankees seem unable over the last however many years to deliver a playoff run alongside like one of these momentous endings. Last year they didn't make it when Mo went out, and they didn't make it in the year the old stadium closed, and now they're not going to make it in Jeter's final year. So, I think some fans are fussing because, we're not going to see Jeter's like for a long time, and they don't really have a replacement.
Do Yankees followers, the people in the media there, do you see this as something that will get better next year? In other words, is this a one-off? We've always talked about the Yankees are getting older, and people have been waiting for them to, waiting for reality to set in. But I'm looking at a lot of things here. I mean, Dellin Betances, David Robertson, Brandon McCarthy's been a bit of a discovery. Is this team in some ways in better shape now than it was at the start of the year?
That's a fascinating question. And, I think that if we had any guarantee about some of the performance of some of the guys who they signed last winter as big-time free agents, I'm talking about Brian McCann and Carlos Beltran and Jacoby Ellsbury primarily. If we had any guarantee of performance going forward with them, I would say that it's possible because I think they'll add, they'll spend again this winter, I believe, because they have no choice. They're sort of boxed into a corner. With that, they need replacements for players, and they need insurance policies for players who are older, and so they're going to have to spend some. But it's also up in the air because we don't know what Tanaka is going to be. What's going to happen with him and his elbow. Where is CC Sabathia going to be next year, injury-wise, health-wise, and so there's a lot of unknowns as well. And it's not like they don't have the next Mike Trout in the minor league system either. So there's not going to be, whatever injection of life they get from beneath is not going to be huge and enormous. At least, it doesn't project that way now. So, I think they're really in kind of an unknowable period right now.
Anthony, where does Brandon McCarthy fit in next year? I know coming over from the trade, he's done really, really well. Is that surprising to you? And where does he fit with the Yankees next year?
Well, he's going to be a free agent, and I think they ought to re-sign him as quick as possible because he has pitched very well here, and I think he really likes it here also, and I think they ought to just go ahead and get something done right now before the insanity of the free agent market hits. But he's been a completely different pitcher. I think he was 3-10 when they made the deal, with the Diamondbacks to get him, and he's pitched great here. He's gone back to his cutter, and that has helped him a great deal, something the Yankees sort of shepherded him through and suggested that he do, and it's really paid off for him. And he's really been, he's embraced coming to New York, and he's really sort of turned his season, if not his career, around. I mean, he may not want to sign a contract immediately because he may think he can get a lot of money in a lot of years on the free agent market, although it's kind of a pitching-heavy year this winter. In terms of free agents. So, I think he's got they ought to give him a spot on the team.
Well, and you made an interesting point, Anthony, in that Brandon McCarthy has embraced his role in New York. And one of the things I really like about him, and one of the reasons I think a lot of people in Toronto are kind of wondering why the Jays weren't a little more proactive with him, is he's a guy who gets it. He's a big stage guy. He's clearly and you know what it's like. We've seen a lot of guys go into New York and just be eaten up. And you're right. He seems to have flourished.
Yeah, he seems to be a guy. I think he might be a little more open-minded in terms of the pro athletes out there in terms of, absorbing experiences and sort of getting into it, apart from just the baseball part. And, I think he was interested in the challenge of coming to New York because it really isn't for everyone. And I think that's part of what we saw at the beginning of the year with Brian McCann, who I think was a little uncomfortable in New York when he first arrived. And, it didn't help very much. And it might have been, aided by the fact that he wasn't playing very well either. That seems to have changed a great deal over the past 6 weeks or so because he's playing much better. But McCarthy is, he's into it. You see how he engages fans on Twitter, and he likes that kind of stuff. And and I think you're right. I think that he doesn't shy away from it. He's a great interview. He's always got insight on a multitude of topics, and he's really been great to have around the clubhouse.
Right, Anthony. If you get out your crystal ball, can you tell me who's going to play shortstop for the New York Yankees next year?
Well, that is a big-time question, too. I'll tell you who. This has been my prediction for a couple of months now based on nothing at all. So, in other words, take it for what it's worth. I think J.J. Hardy will be their shortstop next year.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Just for no other reason than he would be. He's a good player. I know he's had some injury problems this year, but he's got a little pop. He can certainly field the position. There are a few shortstops out there on the free agent market, of which he will be one. Who are available, who are, in a down year for offensive players on the free agent market, the shortstop actually has, a handful of guys who I think that, the shortstop needing teams will be okay with signing. And I just feel like he sort of profiles as the kind of guy, they could really use some pop, and he has had pop, maybe not this year, but in the past he's hit home runs as a shortstop, and I think that would be something that they'd be into. And I think, honestly, Stephen Drew had a chance to be that guy when they acquired him, and he's pretty much flopped here on offense, continuing a horrible year for him. And I think he's played his way out of that consideration.
Anthony McCarron of the New York Daily News joins us in Baseball Central at noon. Masahiro Tanaka will pitch in this series, I believe Saturday or Sunday.
Yes, Sunday.
Sunday. What are the Yankees? What are they expecting from him in this game?
I think the number one thing that they're looking for from him is just to be okay. And I think that this is a peace of mind start. It's not, they're not rushing him back because they think that if they have another pitcher in their rotation, it will increase their infinitesimal chances of making the playoffs. I mean, that's not what this is about. This is about him and the club getting a little bit of knowledge for next season. Is he going to be okay? I think they just want him to go and throw a few innings and, see what he's got and see that he comes through it healthy and maybe do it again before the end of the season. So, spring training isn't this momentous, thing where hasn't pitched, in almost a year, and he's rehabbed this injury, and so it sort of takes the pressure. They get a little knowledge of whether he can do it or not, if he can do it for a couple of starts at the end of the season.
Anthony, it was good of you to join us today. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, guys.